1972. That's the build year of a Caravan, still sitting on a property in northern New South Wales. Through decades of rain and humidity, and by its owner's own account, it has never leaked and it has never rotted. 50-odd years old. Not restored to death, not babied in a shed, just built right. Now, walk into a dealership tomorrow and there's a 150 grand off-road van under the spotlights, all composite panels and lithium and touchscreens, and I'll tell you something that'll cost the salesman his commission. There is a real chance that van will be a rotting, cracked, uneconomic wreck long before the old one gives up. And that's not nostalgia talking. That's the ACT's own survey of over 2,000 owners, where 80% reported a fault, half of them major, across more than 150 brands, and 2 out of 3 of those people had paid over 60 grand. 60 grand and an 80% chance of a problem. Price is not protection. It never was. Because here's the thing. The industry has spent 30 years hoping you'd never work out. Durability in a Caravan doesn't come from what you spend. It comes from 3 boring things nobody puts in a brochure. What the frame is made of, what the chassis is made of, and how many systems are on board that can fail. Get those 3 right, and a 12 grand van will still be touring when the 150 grand Hero is in a repair yard with water in the walls. Today, I'm counting down 7 cheap Caravans that'll outlast a $150,000 off-roader, ranked from good to genuinely bulletproof, and I'll show you exactly why each one refuses to die. This is built on the ACT's fault data, on what repairers find when they cut these walls open, on owner reports going back decades, and on plain engineering. I'm Liam. I'm 50. No badge loyalty, nobody paying me a cent. Before we get into it, hit subscribe, because this could save you 100 grand and a decade of grief. Right, let's go from good to bulletproof. Coming in at number 7, the humble single-axle pop-top. Let's start with the one everybody's nan had, because it's the one everybody sneers at. A little 16-foot pop-top, single-axle, canvas skirt, worth 8 or 10 grand on a good day, and it will very likely outlive the 6-figure off-roader parked next to it. Here's why. Weight and height are what destroy Caravans. The big off-roader has to be lifted absurdly high just to get clearance, which makes it tall, heavy, and tippy, and every kilo and every inch of that height is leverage working on the chassis and the walls every time you hit a corrugation. A pop-top is low, light, and has almost no wind drag, which means less stress on everything, easier towing, and less fuel. It's carrying less, so less is being shaken apart. The failure list is short and cheap. Canvas skirt perishes, a few $100 to an upholsterer. Wheel bearings, $60. Gas struts, cheap. Meanwhile, the Hero van has a lithium management module, a diesel heater, a gray water system, 3 pumps, and a touch screen, and every one of those is a several $1,000 failure waiting for a Tuesday. The honest catch, a pop-top gives you less insulation, less security, and a setup step. Fair enough, but nothing on it can quietly rot from the inside while you're not looking, and that's the whole ballgame. Stay with me, because at number 2 I'll show you the specific spec that lets a 50-year-old van laugh at the weather. Number 6, the old-school aluminium frame tourer. Now we get to the first of the 3 magic words, and it's a word that costs the modern industry money to say: aluminium. A huge number of Caravans, then and now, are built on a timber frame, Meranti usually. And timber has one mortal enemy, water, and a Caravan is a box covered in dozens of joins, all sealed with silicone that has a shelf life. When the seal fails, and it will, water gets into the timber and it rots from the inside out while the van still looks perfect. But an aluminium frame cannot rot, ever. It can corrode at a fitting, sure, but it can't drink water and turn to porridge behind the wall lining. That's not a small difference. That's the single most common way a caravan dies, deleted from the equation. Owners of these old alloy-framed vans routinely report 30 and 40 years of rain and humidity with no rot at all. You'll find tidy ones for 12 to 20 grand. Take the moisture meter anyway, because the floor and the joins can still cop it, but you've eliminated the biggest killer for the price of a used hatchback. Quick favor before we hit the top 5. If this is making you look at that showroom hero van a bit differently, tap the like button. It genuinely helps push this in front of buyers before they sign. Cheers. On we go. Number 5. The galvanized chassis workhorse. Second magic word, and it's the one that beats our other great van killer. Rust. Salt air on the coast, salt on the tracks, moisture in the bull dust. It eats steel for a living. A painted chassis chips on the first gravel road, and once it's chipped, the rust starts working quietly under the paint, where you'll never see it until something structural lets go. Hot-dipped galvanized is different. The zinc is bonded through the steel, not sprayed on top, and it just keeps shrugging it off decade after decade. Go and look at the used listings. You'll find 20-plus-year-old vans advertised with full aluminium frame and hot-dipped gal chassis, still solid, still no leaks, and the sellers know exactly why they're mentioning it. Meanwhile, plenty of expensive modern vans still ride on a painted chassis with a marketing name on it. Let me put that in plain language. You can spend 150 grand and get a chassis that will rust, or spend 15 and get one that won't. That's not a joke. That's the market we're in. Number 4. The bonded panel budget van. Third magic word, and this one's about how the walls are actually stuck together. On a classic stick and staple van, you've got a timber frame with cladding literally stapled and glued over it, and on corrugations those staples work loose over time, which weakens the structure and opens fresh paths for water. Bonded or composite panel is a different animal, an inner skin, an outer skin, and a foam core laminated into one rigid piece. Nothing to loosen, nothing to rot, water can't soak into it. Now here's the sting. Plenty of cheap older Aussie vans were built with genuine bonded panels and gal chassis. No fuss, no marketing. And plenty of expensive modern vans are being spruiked as composite when they're really textured ply, stapled to a timber frame with polystyrene shoved between, and a thin sheet clad over the outside. Same old construction, fancier jacket, fancier name, 4 times the price. So if you're looking at a cheap van from a decent old maker, and it's genuinely bonded panel on a gal chassis with an alloy frame, you've quietly got better bones than the 6-figure hero, and you paid 15 grand. Number 3. The sub 20-foot simple tourer with almost nothing on it. Now this one's about the failure count, and it's the argument nobody wants to hear. Every system you don't have is a system that cannot fail on you 800 kilometers from a workshop. The 150 grand van has a lithium bank with a BMS, an inverter, a diesel heater, an ensuite, a gray water tank, a washing machine, 3 water pumps, a fridge slide, and a screen that runs half of it. Beautiful. Genuinely. Until one dies, and the part comes from Germany, and you're parked in a repair queue for 4 months. Your cheap, simple van has a 3-way fridge, a gas stove, a water tank, a pump, and some lights. That's it. And here's the kicker. Every single one of those parts is a generic, off-the-shelf item that any repairer in any country town can source and fit this week. Not proprietary. Not orphaned. Not a 6-week wait from overseas. Simplicity isn't a compromise. On the road, it's the most valuable feature there is. Number 2. The well-maintained van from a long-standing, still-trading maker. Now, before number one, the honest caveat, because I always give you the balance. None of this makes a cheap van magic. There are cheap vans that leak like a sieve. Owners of one very well-known Aussie brand have reported chronic roof leaks and getting told, essentially, to climb up and put more silicone around the hatch themselves. Old and cheap does not automatically mean good. What matters is that the maker was building to a standard, not just to a price, and that they're still around if something goes wrong. So number two is the van from a builder with decades behind them who's still trading, bought used at 10 or 15 years old. Because if it's already done 15 years without rot or a cracked chassis, that's not a gamble, that's a proven track record, which is exactly what the shiny new van cannot offer you at any price. And topping the list at number one, the aluminium-framed Gal chassis pop-top that's already survived 20 years. Here it is. Put all three magic words together in one cheap van and you've got the thing I'd back over anything in the showroom. Alloy frame so it cannot rot. Hot-dipped Gal chassis so it cannot rust out. Pop top so it's light and low and isn't tearing itself apart from its own weight and height. Simple systems, all of them replaceable at any country repairer. And crucially, 20 or 30 years already on the clock with no rot and no cracks, which is the only durability test that has ever meant anything. 10 to 20 grand. That's it. Against 150 for a van that, on the Act's own numbers, has an 80% chance of giving you a fault. So there they are. 7 cheap vans that'll see out 150 grand off-roader. The humble pop-top with a failure list you can count on one hand. The alloy-framed tourer that cannot rot. The galvanized chassis workhorse that cannot rust. The genuinely bonded panel budget van with better bones than the hero. The simple sub-20-footer where every part is off the shelf. The proven old van from a maker still trading. And topping the list, the alloy-framed Gal chassis pop-top that's already done 20 years and hasn't blinked. My honest takeaway, and it's the same one I always give. None of this means expensive vans are junk, and I'm not telling you to tour the Kimberley in a 50-year-old pop-top. A good modern off-roader gives you comfort and capability an old van never will. And if that's what your traveling genuinely needs, buy it. But buy it knowing what you're actually paying for, which is comfort, not durability. Those are two completely different things, and the industry has spent 30 years charging you for the first while, implying you're getting both. So do this. Ask what the frame is made of. Ask if the chassis is hot-dipped galvanized. Ask if the walls are genuinely laminated panel or just cladding stapled to timber. Watch how they react, because an honest builder will be proud to tell you, and a dodgy one will reach for a magic word. And on any van, new or old, get an independent inspection and run a moisture meter over every join before you hand over a cent. Have you got an old van that's outlasted everything, or watched an expensive one fall apart beside you at the campground? Drop your stories in the comments. The wins and the horror shows, all welcome. If this helped, give it a like. Hit subscribe for more straight-shooting Aussie advice, and I'll see you in the next one. Drive safe, check the frame before you check the finish, and remember the old girl will look after you if you look after her.